Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and I've got 5 players I want to mention that I'm avoiding this upcoming fantasy football season. A lot of it has to do where these players are falling in their ADP, and I feel is a little too rich where I can get value somewhere else and not have to drop a first, second, or third round on some of these players that I think may not fall in that round for you. So we're going to jump right into it. So we're going to count this down from 5 to the number 1 player that I'm avoiding based off of where they're falling in ADP and where they're going in most redrafts currently. Now, of course, this is a fluid thing that could change over the training camp portion, preseason, and things like that. But as of right now, the first player I'm going to mention is Nico Collins. Look, Nico Collins is wide receiver 13, where he is falling into that late second round in most drafts. So wide receiver 13, I don't hate it because Nico Collins was fantastic last season. I love Nico. I'm excited to see what he does. He's got a great, big contract. Second year with CJ Stroud, which is huge. Again, I think that's a big deal. Anytime you're having a quarterback like CJ Stroud, it's going to have another offseason, another chance to grow and become a better quarterback. And with a receiving core like this, I love it. But my concern with Nico Collins is the fact that right now at wide receiver 13, I don't know if he quite finishes as a wide receiver 1. He's right on that brink of a wide receiver 1 if we're talking a 12-team league. So I just feel there's other value. I have concerns with Stephon Diggs being there and Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz because there's just not going to be enough targets to really force feed Nico to become a wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2, sure, the value's there. I think he's a little too high in the wide receiver 13th rank. I feel like I can probably get him a little bit later, or I'll let my league mates draft him and I can probably get value somewhere else. I'm not saying, again, to stay away from Nico Collins, but where he is falling right now in most ADPs is just a little too costly for me. I want to see more out of Nico. This last season was his first time actually playing a full season. Injuries definitely bugged him for the first couple of years, and they were almost going to write him off. Let's just be honest. Houston Texans fans were ready to let him go. But he got to prove what he was capable of doing. So again, I am super excited. But as far as redraft in this particular spot, I'm going to move on from Nico, and I'd rather grab another player, maybe another running back or another receiver in this aspect. Now, my second player I'm going to mention is going to be Drake London. Way too high. Wide receiver 9 right now, ADP 13, which means he's right on that cusp of the end of the first, early second round. A lot of this has to do with the fact that Kirk Cousins went to Atlanta. That's all it is. It's a gut feeling. It's a gut reaction, kind of like what happened with Garrett Wilson last season with Aaron Rodgers. It's that feeling of, Kirk Cousins is going to amplify this offense. He's going to amplify Drake London. And it's very possible. I don't quite want to spend a late first or early second round on Drake London. Not at this point. There's just too much. There's too many factors. You've got the Achilles. You still got to deal with Kirk Cousins. He did look healthy so far this offseason, which is great. You still got Kyle Pitts, who I do believe in, right? He's going to be involved. And realistically, this offense and the way the coaching staff and the new coaching staff is talking, they are going to go through the run. Both Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier will be big factors into this offense. And I think that's going to help. Again, I think this is to prolong Kirk Cousins this season, give him the ability to stay healthy, give him the ability to not have to pass every single play like he was doing in Minnesota, and give him a chance to have a true overall healthy offense with Bijan, Allgeier, and these receiving weapons. Plus, we can't forget Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore were added to this receiving core who are going to get plenty of targets. I'm just not quite sold on Drake London at this particular moment. Another player is going to be Garrett Wilson. Look, I love Garrett Wilson. I'm a huge fan of Garrett Wilson. If you watched any of my content, especially when we came into the league, he was my favorite receiver coming into the league, especially in Dynasty. But wide receiver 8, end of the first round, is way too expensive to draft Garrett Wilson. He has not been better than a wide receiver 21 in fantasy so far in his first 2 years. I get he had Zach Wilson at quarterback. I get the whole quarterback situation. Just like last year, everybody got excited, like I mentioned with Nico Collins or Drake London. You got a new quarterback. Everyone's pumped. They're super excited. Look, Aaron Rodgers hopefully is healthy. Last year was kind of that fluke, weird, crazy thing that happened, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. So I get and understand the gut feeling of reaction to having a healthy Aaron Rodgers. But my concern with that is, and let's just be honest, the targets aren't going to necessarily increase. Garrett Wilson's averaging 157 targets a season. That's a lot of activity. It's not like he's only getting 90 to 100. Like, he's getting 157 targets each season he has been in the NFL. That is a lot. But he's never been better than wide receiver 21. He's a wide receiver 2 at this point, but he's being treated as a wide receiver 1 off of most of ADP and mock drafts I've been in. At this point, I would rather go after players like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley at that particular cost, who I think is going to have better value and better points in fantasy than Garrett Wilson. He may prove me wrong, but at this point, I'd rather grab a running back at that particular spot and then on the swing, grab another receiver. Now, another player I'm going to mention is a running back, is Devin Achane. I don't get this. He's ADP 26, so he's right around that early third, right? Late second round. He's running back 7, which is crazy to me. And I understand it. There's a lot of hype. He looked great last season, averaging over 7 yards a carry, explosive, one of the fastest players in this league, especially in this offense, the way the Miami Dolphins play. I understand the excitement, but we can't forget Mostert's still there, who is very valuable last season, was healthy, when obviously we hope that health is still going to go into this season. A healthy Waddle is now coming back. You still got Tyreek Hill. I like Jonnu Smith. I like Jalen Wright. I like a lot of the players that this offense really has. And I think, for me, the way this offense is built, I still think they're going to use several running backs. I don't think Achane's going to get treated enough in the red zone. I don't think he's going to get enough opportunities and targets his way. I don't think he's getting enough touches to put him as RB7 at this particular moment. He is more dynasty value than he is redraft currently. He is being drafted way too high. If I'm at the RB7 spot, if I'm in the late second, early third, and I'm trying to go back and forth, figure out a running back, I'm grabbing a Derrick Henry. I'm grabbing an Isaiah Pacheco. I'm grabbing players like that I know are going to get plenty of opportunities, who can have success and be an RB1. I do not want my RB1 to be Devin Achane. I'd rather him be my RB2. So for me, I'm staying away from him at this particular moment. And my number 1 player, and I hate to say this because people are probably going to take this a certain way, because I'm a huge fan, is Jahmyr Gibbs right now. He is currently ranked as RB4 in most rankings. He is considered ADP 12, which again, at the end of the first, maybe squeaks at the beginning of the second. And it's just too much. He is an elite talent. I love what he was able to do. He was phenomenal last season. But something I want you guys to think about and start to look at. It's a bit too much of a reach for me. Gibbs does still have to compete with David Montgomery. And they both played well together. Don't get me wrong. David Montgomery, even when they both played, Montgomery averaged 13.5 points a game. Gibbs averaged 15.9 points a game. So he was phenomenal. Don't take that away from Gibbs. But here's my thing. At that cost, I would rather get a receiver if I can, like an elite receiver if possible, than maybe Gibbs on the second round, right? That's possible. I'm okay with that. I don't hate that particular move. But I'm not grabbing Gibbs first if there's other talent out there. You have guys that you can get later in the second, maybe third round, that were very similar in fantasy points. Like a Saquon Barkley, who averaged 15.9 points a game. Very similar to Gibbs. His value is really low. Or my favorite right now, because Kyren Williams is being mistreated completely in the fantasy world, is Kyren Williams. The fact is, Kyren Williams, he's being drafted way later. And I think a lot of it's just, I don't know what it is, but he's being drafted way later. And he averaged 21 points a game last season. So for me, looking at the landscape of the way the way offenses are going, I love Gibbs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't draft him. But at this particular point, if you're looking at your home league, you're starting to do some mock drafts, you're starting to see things happen. If I can get a Kyren Williams in the second round and get a receiver in the first and just kind of miss Gibbs, I'm okay with that. I'm not grabbing him in the first round. It's just too much. Now, if your league mates start to go running back heavy, you're going to grab him. And that's going to all play a factor in this. But for me, I'm going to stay away if I possibly can, if we're just kind of seeing receivers and running backs getting mixed. Because I think you can get a better value later on. And I just think you can skip Gibbs if you have to. And I think you get better talent later and not have to spend so much. So those are my 5 players that I'm avoiding currently in redraft because of their ADP and how much it's going to cost you to draft these players. Now, if you have any suggestions of other players that you're probably avoiding this upcoming season, let me know in the comments. If you agree or disagree, again, hit me up with the comments down below. I'd love to hear everyone's opinions on this. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys are subscribed. Don't forget to hit the like button. We'll be doing draft content, redraft content, mock drafts, all kinds of stuff coming into you for July. There's a lot of great stuff. Football season's coming up. It's going to be fast and approaching. I'm super excited. So again, subscribe, like, and I'll check you guys out next time.